Hi there, Jim here. Today we are going to have a look at this carbon monoxide detector from Toptes. This is model CT-580. I just want to acknowledge that I got this carbon monoxide detector through the Amazon Vine program in order to perform a review. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that if you find this video to be helpful, please give it a thumbs up, or better yet, subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate questions and comments. The feedback really helps me know where I can direct my efforts. Now let's have a look at the carbon monoxide detector. Opening up the box, pretty easy. There's a user manual in here, except I expect, although it's a very thick manual, we'll find that, oh, let's see. Okay. Oh, I was there already. 23 pages in English. And then we've got a few other languages. We've got German, French, Italian, Spanish, and an appendix. That's interesting. Not really an index, an appendix. Okay. So there's a box, and that's all there is to it. There's a hard case here. In the hard case, we've got some nice padded surround. There's a typical USB-A to USB-C charge cable. Okay, so that's padded. So clearly they don't want this thing getting smacked around. What do we have here? So not a lot of information on the back. Toptes, carbon monoxide detector, 0 to 1,000 parts per million, model CT-580. All right, so let's get this set up to be charged. So I'm going to charge the unit, and then the charging port is here on the bottom. So we'll resume once the unit is fully charged. Really quickly, here's a shot of the unit as it's charging. We can see a very clear and sharp display, but one of the things we don't see is any estimate of how charged the unit is, so we can't tell if this is 10% charged or 90% charged. We just can see that it's in the process of charging. Charging is complete, and this is what it looks like on the display when the charging is all done. Let's power up the unit. Unplug the charging cord, close that up, and we can see that power button down here. Oh, something flashed there. So we have to hold the power button to get it started. You can see it's going through a powering up process. So we can see that as it's powering up, it went through a self-test process, and now the carbon monoxide sensor is warming up, and now it's ready to go. And so that's what the green light there means. Let's take a look at the display and see what's here. So I've zoomed in. We can see in the top left corner, we've got the date and the time. I haven't even figured out yet how to set the date and the time, so we'll have to adjust those. It's not the current date and time. Then we have some symbols in the top right. This one here that looks like a little bit of a chain link, that's the vibration alarm being active. There's a little bell, which means the audible alarm is active, and we have a battery indicator. And here it shows that we're measuring carbon monoxide. And then the carbon monoxide reading, once we get into it, is indicated in two ways. There's a numeric value that's shown here in the middle, and then there's a sort of a donut, if you will, that fills in as the carbon monoxide level increases. And if you can make out the colors, you can see that, of course, 0 is green, everything is great. There's a yellow that kicks in at 50, red at 200, and of course above 200 up to 1,000, which is the limit of the device, is all red. So those are the features, and of course while the unit is operating, if we zoom out a little bit, there's a constant flash of this green light up at the top. And so I expect that that light will change color as we get into a situation where perhaps there's some carbon monoxide. Now, if we press the function button, it brings up a few other features here. And so we can see that there is one here called event records, alarm settings, calibration, system settings, an advanced menu, and some information. So let's have a look at each one of these in turn. So we can, first off, just in case, we can move back and forth through the items with the left and right arrow keys. Let's start at the bottom with information. So we go down with the left and right arrows, press the func button, and it gives us information on the unit, information about, for example, the name of the unit, its serial number, which is currently not filled in, the software version of the unit, the hardware version, the build date. So that's probably, it's not clear whether that's the build date of the physical unit or of the software. It is probably the build date of the software, and then an ID. And we can press the left and right arrow keys to move back through. There is another page here called state, so it tells us the current battery voltage in millivolts, so divide by 1,000 to convert that to volts. Let's just zoom in a little more so it's easier to read. It tells us whether it's charging or not, currently not charging, the current ambient temperature, the sensor analog to digital converter information, the boot time, the startup time, of course that's based on the clock that we haven't set, and the current runtime, and we can see that that's slowly counting up as it runs. And so there are only two screens here of information. Now, to move back, we press the power button, and that moves back a level. So we can move to the advanced menu. The advanced menu requires a password. We'll have to look up what that is. System settings. Let's set the date and time. So we've got date and time selected. We press func to go into that area. The year is 2024. The month is 10. The day is 30. The hour is 14. The minute 20. I'm not going to set the seconds. And then to accept the value, we hold down the func key, not just press it quickly. Okay, so that says success. And we're done. Press the func key. And now we can see that the date and time in the top left corner reflects the current date and time. And why that's useful, we'll see in a moment. So let's leave here. We can go to the display item. We can adjust the screen brightness. We can adjust the screen brightness, which kicks in after automatic sleep. So after there's a setting here for automatic sleep, which is 2 minutes, and an off setting, which is 5 minutes. And so after 2 minutes, that sleep level, the brightness of the display will be reduced to 20% rather than operating at 100%. Okay, now let's go back up. Notifications. We can see here now that the notifications for the light, so there's some lights here that will go off when we hit a carbon monoxide level. There's a vibration and a buzzer, and so they're all turned on. And we could, for example, turn one of them off if we didn't like it, if we found it to be annoying, or maybe it just wasn't to our fancy. So I'm just going to leave them all on. When there's carbon monoxide, I really want it to go to a lot of trouble to let me know. Okay, language. So we can choose 2 languages, Chinese and English. We'll leave it alone. I like to be able to read what is being shown here. And then a factory reset setting, which I'm not going to make use of. Okay, press that power button or back button again. We see here calibration. The calibration requires a password to be entered in order to do a calibration, and the manual indicates what the default password is for the unit. And I'm not going to calibrate the unit because it's already been calibrated, but we can enter the default password. We can enter the password here. And you can see now we have a calibration screen, and we can either zero it, or if we can calibrate to a specific value, and I can't generate a specific value for carbon monoxide. And so I'm not going to get into the calibration of the unit. I'm going to stick with the factory calibration that was done before the unit arrived. But I just thought you might like to see. And we can adjust, it looks like we can adjust the calibration value here if we need to. Okay, but I'm just going to exit out here. We have alarm settings here, and if we look into this page, we see that we can set a few different thresholds. So we can set the threshold for what constitutes a low value at, in this case, it's set to 50. That's the factory value. And what constitutes a high value of carbon monoxide, here it's set to 200. In addition to that, we have these phrases where it says backlash. And this backlash is an interesting feature. And so the idea here is that when an alarm is triggered, we don't want to kind of be in a situation where the alarm is going on and off and on and off and on and off, just because the concentration of carbon monoxide is going just above and below this sort of threshold level. So for example, the alarm will go off when it goes above 50, and when it goes below 50, the alarm stops sounding. The idea of the backlash, both for low and for high, is we can set a value which says that the alarm will keep operating until the carbon monoxide concentration drops some number of units below that threshold. So for example, on the low backlash, on the low threshold, we'll set the backlash here. And we'll set it to 5. Okay, and now you can see that there's a backlash value of 5 entered here. What that means is that the low threshold alarm will sound when we reach a level of 50 or above, but the alarm will keep going off even if we reach a level of 45, 49, 48. So it has to drop at least 5 units, because that's what we've put in here as backlash. It has to drop 5 units below this threshold. So in this case, the threshold being 50, 5 units below would be 45. And so the alarm will keep sounding until the concentration of carbon monoxide drops below 45 units. So that's what the backlash is for, and this one is intended to go with the low threshold. This one is designed to go with the high threshold. But both of them work in the same manner, in the sense that they define how many units below that upper threshold the concentration needs to drop before the alarm turns off. All right, so that's how the alarms are set. And then event record, this is going to be not have very much information right now, but we have here alarm records, failure records, calibration records, and system records. So we'll look at these in turn. Now, because the unit is new and I haven't done anything yet, there won't be any alarm records because we haven't triggered any alarms yet. We can have failure records. Once again, because the system is new, there haven't been any failures of the system, so we won't have any yet. Calibration records. So if the system's been calibrated, this is sort of after the factory calibration was done. So if we do any calibrations, we would have a record of those being done here. And then system records, we can see the sort of power on information and power off information. So we have information there that shows when those have happened. And of course, because these took place before we set the date and time properly, it's showing the old date and time, which are not correct. Now we can move the highlighted item between these two, and if we hold down the func key on one of them, it'll show detail, or we can jump to a specific record. If we go into the detail item, we can see the time, the type, and the voltage. One thing that doesn't seem to be very easy to do is to delete these records, and so that can be useful if we're concerned that some people might be manipulating the records. And so I expect that we can use the advanced menu to clear the records. And so let's look at that. So we've looked at all the records. If we go now to the advanced menu, and of course that one's a password, there is a default password for the unit, which happens to be 222. We have the advanced menu, and in the advanced menu we see we have sensor settings. We can back up settings and clear records. Let's have a look at the sensor settings. So the sensors that we have, the information we have a sensor type, so it's the type of the sensor. We have the type of gas that can be detected. We have the number of decimal places that this device operates with. We have the units that are measured with this device, the lower detection range, the upper detection range, the signal direction of the sensor, whether it's rising or descending, the alarm type. And so for non-oxygen sensors, the threshold is triggered when the value goes above a setting. For an oxygen type sensor, we would want to trigger the sensor when the value goes below a setting. And then a couple of other things here. We have a zero fix. And so that tells us that eliminates displayed values near the 0 point. So in order to eliminate noise at very small levels. And then a little bit of information about the analog to digital converter. And it's basically telling us what values you can see coming out of the analog to digital converter are used to indicate different different concentrations. So 0 parts per million is an analog to digital converter value of 1. 500 parts per million is an analog digital converter value of 857. Okay, and the 2 and 3 values don't appear to be used in this unit. So that's what's available to us in terms of the sensor settings. Now here we can back up our settings. That can be used to restore parameters even though a factory reset has been done. So you might get into some weird situation. You might think you need to do a factory reset, and you do that, and you might have wiped out some configuration that you needed. And this backup allows you to retrieve those settings. I'm not going to make use of the backup right now, but that's what it's intended to do. It's intended to allow you to preserve settings of the device across a factory reset where you're trying to reset other parameters in the system. And then the last item here, clear records. And this is going to clear all of those events in the log. And since this unit is new, I'm going to do that. Okay, so that's been cleared. Nothing else here in the advanced menu, so let's go back. And if we look at the event records now, we had some system records, but you can see that those are cleared out now. And so that's a good thing probably to do when you're getting the device ready for use the first time around, as you might have some nuisance records in the unit from when it was set up at the factory. So I think now we've gone through event records, alarm settings, calibration, system settings, advanced menu information. Yep, we've gone through all of those. Now I'm going to try to generate a little bit of carbon monoxide to see if we can get the alarm to trigger. What I'm going to do is I have a little piece of wood here. I'm going to set the piece of wood on fire, and we'll see if we can find a place where there's some carbon monoxide being produced by the wood as it burns, and hopefully we'll be able to see the display on the detector as well. We'll try to keep everything in the frame. Okay, so now that's burning. You can see that, oh, we've got some carbon monoxide coming off there. And you can see that it's now registering quite a bit of carbon monoxide actually. And so that flame is producing a fair amount of carbon monoxide, and it's made the detector go off. We can see the lights are flashing, and as the carbon monoxide gets more and more intense, it flashes faster. Quite a lot of carbon monoxide produced by the incomplete combustion of that little piece of wood. You can see that's approaching 1,000 now. The flyer has gone out, and so the value is probably going to start dropping now. We can see it's going down, and so we've seen the entire alarm effect. Now as it goes below 200, it'll go from red to a yellow. The beeping is slower, and then when it goes below 50, we can see that it's now dropped back to what's considered a normal mode. And you might have noticed that when it just went a little bit below 50, about 48 I think it was, the alarm didn't go off, and that was because of that backlash setting that we had set earlier in the configuration. And of course it's taking a little bit of time. There might be a little bit of smoldering going on there. But that's how that works. And so you can see that the unit is quite effective. Detects carbon monoxide, I would think, extremely well. That worked better than I thought it would. And that's the entire unit. And I have to say, compared to some other carbon monoxide detectors that I've tried, this one has worked really, really well. The display, as you've no doubt seen throughout the video, the display is really super clear, super crisp, very easy to read. And when the alarm is triggered, flashing lights, the vibration, and the buzzer, there's no doubt that the alarm has gone off and we're in a situation where there's a lot of carbon monoxide in the atmosphere. Now, of course, in this small room here with a little bit of burning wood, the sensor is really right in the path of the carbon monoxide, and so everything was fine there. I'm not clearly not sort of suffocating, but in a sort of in a larger environment, if you didn't know exactly what the source of the carbon monoxide was, and if you didn't have a large source of fresh air, that concentration of carbon monoxide would be extremely dangerous and potentially lethal. So a very nice unit. Okay, the atmosphere has cleared out in the room here, so we're back to zero. Everything looks really nice. And one of the things that we can do is turn the unit off. And it's interesting the way the unit powers down, because of course we want to avoid turning the unit off accidentally. We wouldn't want to think that the unit is, we wouldn't want to have the unit get turned off accidentally and not be monitoring for us. And so when we want to turn it off, we have to hold the function key down, or the power key down, for a little while for it to power off. That's how that works. And so that's a very capable, a very nice unit. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, or better yet, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time.